the season is right around the corner, and these 8 games can put these teams in the playoffs. This can hurt some teams as they might fall in the standings due to injuries, but most of these teams will benefit. So, what do you think the standings will look like after these 8 games?
Well, for me, I'm going to start off with my East order 1 through 8. For the first seed, I got the Milwaukee Bucks. For second seed, I got the Toronto Raptors. For the third seed, I got the Boston Celtics. For fourth seed, I got the Miami Heat. For the fifth seed, I got the Philadelphia 76ers. For the sixth seed, I got the Indiana Pacers. For the seventh seed, I got the Orlando Magic. And for the final seed of the playoffs, I got the Brooklyn Nets. So the changes I had made were that the 76ers passed the Pacers because I think they'll do better with their 8 seed games, and they're tied right now in the standings. And I think the Magic will pass the Nets because the Nets are missing so many key players right now. And I think the rest of the standings stay the same for the East. Then for the West, I got the Los Angeles Lakers at number 1, the Los Angeles Clippers at number 2, the Utah Jazz at number 4, and before them, I have the Nuggets at number 3. Then for the fifth seed, I have the Houston Rockets at number 5, and I got the Oklahoma City Thunder at number 6. I got the Mavs at number 7, staying where they are, and I got the Portland Trailblazers beating out the rest of the 8 seed playoff teams. And here, the changes I made were that the Rockets passed the Thunder because I feel like they'll do better than the Thunder, and they're tied right now for in the standings. And I think the Grizzlies will lose their playoff spot. They got a tough schedule, and I don't think they have the experience to beat all the teams in that pressure. And I think the Blazers and the Pelicans will play in a play-in tournament as the 8th and 9th seeds. And I think the Pelicans will make the 8th seed before the play-in, but I think the Blazers will win 2 straight games to win that 8th seed.
Yeah, on some of your points I agree, and some of your points I don't disagree. But I'll get to those points after I mention all these teams and where they'll be. So for the East, I predicted that the Bucks will stay where they are at number 1, and then 2 is the Raptors, this third seed. I think the Heat will get it, and the fourth probably be the Celtics. And then for the fifth seed, I had the Indiana Pacers. The sixth seed, I had the 76ers. The seventh seed, I had the Magic going up, and the eighth seed, I had the Brooklyn Nets. And I'll tell you why I changed the Heat, and because that was because you looked at the games yesterday, and even though they faced the Brooklyn Nets, they looked so NBA ready for these 8 games to come up, and I think that's because they have such an amazing staff in Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley that team never stops working, and I think that's the reason why that they can beat the Celtics. And I think they're only 2 games. The Celtics are the only 2 games in front of them, so the Heat can go up because I think the Heat are one of the most ready. I think they're a ready team to be in the bubble, and they're ready to win games as soon as possible. And for the West, I have the Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Utah Jazz being the 3 seed, the Denver Nuggets at the 4th seed. 5th seed, I have the Houston Rockets. 6th seed, I have the Mavs. And the 7th seed, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. And for the 8th seed, I had the New Orleans Pelicans. And the reason I put the Nuggets as the 4th seed is because if you saw them yesterday, they had so many pieces out. They had to start Nikola Jokic at the point guard. They're missing about 5 or 6 players. Troy Daniels said in an interview, I think a week ago maybe, that 8 or 9 players are only on their team right now. And Gary Harris, Michael Porter Jr., Monte Morris, those are all key pieces that the Denver Nuggets need. And yesterday they didn't have Jamal Murray or Will Barton play. They were still in the bubble, but they did not play. So you don't know how that's going to all work out. So that's why I put the Nuggets 1 seed lower. And I put the Pelicans in as the 8th seed because I think they can still make it to the playoffs, because the NBA is, I think, rooting for the Pelicans to make the playoffs because they want that money. And even without Zion Williamson, the Pelicans have been really good with Brandon Ingram and Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, and Drew Holiday. So I think that's why the Pelicans can make the 8th seed.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree on you with a couple of your points. At first I did agree with you with the Nuggets going down one seed with the Jazz going up and replacing them. But then I realized the Jazz lost Bogdan Bogdanovic, and I think the Nuggets, honestly, it really was just a scrimmage game, and I think they're going to be much more serious with their roster and lineups when it actually comes to the 8 seeding games. And because of that, I think that they'll retain their 3rd seed while the Jazz stay in the 4th seed. But with the Pelicans, they do have an easier schedule, and although whether or not Zion Williamson is playing or not, the one reason I think they won't make the 8th seed is because if the Grizzlies do bad this during the 8 seeding games, there's going to be a play-in between the Trailblazers and the Pelicans. And I really think that Damian Lillard, C.J. McCollum, Hassan Whiteside, Carmelo Anthony, uh, uh, Zach Collins, you looking at Yusuf Nurkic, they're all players that won't lose in a pressure situation because they've all been so experienced in those situations. And the Pelicans are still a young team, so I don't think that they will be able to take the 8th seed, even if they do get in a play-in tournament with the Trailblazers.
I mean, I see your points there, but I think the NBA is kind of like they're centered around the Pelicans for these 8 games because they really want the Pelicans, to make the playoffs because they have Zion Williamson, and they know that if they have Zion Williamson in the playoffs, he's the next LeBron, so they're gonna get a lot of money, and I think that's what NBA is looking for right now. They need money because they're losing a lot, as any other businesses are. But for the Pelicans, I think that they they are, and you said they're a young team, but they have a lot of pieces like Brandon Ingram, and they have a lot of veterans like JJ Redick, and Zion Williamson might come back maybe next week before the 8 games start. So that will help them also as they can get their superstar in Zion Williamson back, and I think they can beat out the Grizzlies and the Trailblazers. And you don't know how the Trailblazers are going to look with Yusuf Nurkic on the court, as he just came back from injury, and Zach Collins as he came back from injury. So you don't know how those players are going to look, and you have to work out the chemistry between all those players and how you're going to get the minutes to each player for the game. So I don't know about the Trailblazers. I can see them in the playoffs, but I think it's the Pelicans that will make it.
I mean, the only way that I see the Pelicans beating out the Blazers is if there's bad officiating or, like you said, the chemistry issues are there. But other than that, I definitely see the Blazers going to the 8th seed and possibly challenging the LA Lakers in that first round series.
Mm-hmm. So as you know, everyone will be playing in Orlando in one place with no fans in attendance. This can help some players as they don't need to feed off the crowd. So who do you think is the biggest winners and losers of no home court advantage?
Well, let me just put it out there that I don't think there's a huge loser or a huge winner. I think the Philadelphia 76ers are a loser, but they're not going to be too much of a loser. And let me start with my winner. I think one of the winners in this is actually the Rockets. And I know a lot of people might say the Clippers, but I don't really understand how that would make sense because Kawhi Leonard, no matter fans or not, he's still going to bring his A game every single game when he wants to. And they still have plenty of depth behind him, like Paul George. They got Patrick Beverly, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell. They have so many key pieces that fans or not, they'd still be championship favorites. And one of the reasons I pick Rockets as one of the biggest winners is because Russell Westbrook is visibly distracted by fans like many times, and and many video clips have shown that he's cursed at fans, he's challenged them, he's really gotten into it, he's fought with fans, and I'm not saying he's a bad person, but I think that without the fans, he'll have no distraction to stop him from playing and attacking and playing his hardest. And I think that will definitely help him as they want to be a dark horse contender for the championship.
Yeah, I think I agree with your point there on the Houston Rockets and the Russell Westbrook, and you also know that James Harden is in shape now, so they can possibly go for the championship this year. But you said the Clippers, and I think that's the biggest winner because you mentioned Kawhi Leonard, and I agree that Kawhi Leonard doesn't need the fans in attendance. He can still be the player that he is. But you also got to realize where they play, and they play in Staples Center and in at Los Angeles, and uh they're not the team that people want to watch. The fans want to watch the LA Lakers. So during home games during the Staples Center, you have a lot of Lakers fans there, and you don't have that many Clippers fans, so that helps the Clippers as they already adjusted to that their home games as they have not that many fans, Clippers fans in attendance. So when they go to
Yeah, but
Orlando,
go ahead. But the thing is, like you said, they've already adjusted to not having too many fans, so it doesn't really give them that much of a bonus
it
being in a place where there's no fans.
it kind of does because you realize other teams that are do better on the at home with their fans and um, chants and screams and stuff. So that with the
Yeah,
fans,
but with the Clippers, it doesn't really make a difference. So it's like their away games because it doesn't really do anything for them. It doesn't help them. I don't see how it's beneficiary to them because they're so used to being such a good team either way.
I think that they will benefit from this because the other teams that feed off their crowd or like the 76ers, like Joel Embiid, he won't have that. And when you even if it's an away game or a home game, the Clippers are still gonna.
Oh, so you're saying that it's not going to benefit them their play necessarily. You're saying that it's going to benefit them in the fact that their opposition isn't going to play as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I know what you're saying. Okay.
So another thing that you said, the 76ers, I think Joel Embiid is a player that um, really feeds off the crowd, as you saw last year in the playoffs. And I think with their team they have right now, they're a really good team, and they only have two losses on at home compared to being a 10-24 on the road. So they really wanted to be at home and play, but with the certain situations we have, they couldn't be able to do that. But you don't know about how their chemistry is with Ben Simmons moving at the power forward, so maybe they can get their work together and they can start winning games on the road and start and maybe make the finals possibly. You never know what will happen during in this Orlando bubble as everything is kind of confusing to say the least.
Well, I'm gonna have to agree with you that the 76ers are a loser of having no home court advantage. And let's just say this: Joel Embiid, he does feed off the fans when they root for him. And when he's on the road, that's usually his time. He thinks, "Oh, I'm going to relax. I need to manage my load management, so that he doesn't get injured." And let's be real. Tobias Harris even said this year the 76ers did have chemistry issues, but I don't know. I think that I like the move from Ben Simmons to point guard to power forward because that lets Shake Milton in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
And Shake Milton is a great 3-point shooter, and he definitely provides more space for the 76ers. And the thing about Joel Embiid, there are reports that came that Joel Embiid doesn't have an injury anymore. And I think he could be a monster with no fans because there's no one rooting for the other team as well. With it, because of these chemistry issues and what he's done in the past road games, I think that when they're fully healthy, the 76ers can win the East. I just haven't seen that ability out of them yet.
Yeah, if they get their chemistry together, they can possibly go to the finals this year and be a surprise team to many fans as Ben Simmons moved to power forward and they hopefully can get their chemistry going.